Okay, and the fourth video now we're going to get into is we're continuing with the neurotransmitters. So we're still talking about and getting into here in relationship to the neuron, and we're going to finish that up. So we're going to kind of get down with the last part here on that. One of the things about the neuron that, again, it's very fascinating about when it comes to not just science but psychology as well, is one individual neuron, which you see there in the picture here. Okay, this one neuron, it has the capability of communicating with and having messages received and sent out to over 1,000 other neurons. So each neuron has the capacity to communicate with 1,000 other neurons who then also can communicate with another 1,000. So literally you're talking about over 1 trillion different synapses in the brain that are working to communicate and to receive information. This is why the brain is such an intricate and very detailed and very confusing sometimes part of the body to even understand. But these neurons are interlinked like this in order so that they can have this communication system. Now, it comes to a point all the time inside of our brain that we get these synapses that are no longer needed because either the brain has figured out a shortcut of getting that information that it was dealing with before put through faster in a different way, or because there was some kind of a damage done to the brain through either physical or it could be other types of damage through drugs or something else that has damaged some of the synapses of a neuron. So what happens then is what's called synaptic pruning. And this is just the elimination of old synapses in the brain, which basically just discards those. And remember, it's the glia that takes those used up or wasted or dead cells then of the brain and gets rid of them and discards them then. So this is just the process. It's a natural process. It doesn't cause any problems in the brain for anybody or anything like that. This is a natural one. When you get damaged by either sports, contact, or falling down, or through drugs, or through alcohol, or through other types of means, and you destroy brain cells yourself, that's an unnatural process which can cause damage. That can cause learning difficulties and other problems to come up then. Okay, finishing up with the neurotransmitters here, and again, you can see the process from the picture here, how this whole thing works and how it gets shot across and everything that we've been talking about and watching the videos over. The chemical carriers to communicate information. The neurotransmitters play a very important role in many different functions. They deal with muscle movement, they deal with our moods, they deal with our mental health. They're a vital part of who we are and what makes us up in terms of our personality, in terms of our stress level, in terms of our ability to deal with happiness or sadness or any other joys that we have. Specific neurons work specific kinds of synapses. Okay, so not every time does does a neurotransmitter get sent out. It totally depends upon what is going through your brain at the time. For right now, you're trying to learn this stuff, hopefully, so you are having a lot of secretion of neurotransmitters that would be dealing with a lot of the learning, which we're going to talk about one of those neurotransmitters here in a little bit. But that would be basically what's going on here. The neurotransmitters that deals with other key things about your body would not be being released right now because that's not what's going on. Okay, one of the types of neurotransmitters you're going to have to know for the test is ACH, which stands for acetylcholine. It is in every move that you make. Basically, ACH is responsible for all of your muscle movements. Every time you walk, talk, breathe, all of those functions of your body depends upon ACH. So as your brain is taking in this information of you being able to do any type of a physical activity, ACH is a neurotransmitter that's connecting up your neurons and getting them to fire so that you are able to perform the activity successfully then. It also contributes to arousal and memory. So ACH is also being secreted right now in your brain as you're trying to get this information down and trying to memorize it. What happens to people who do not have enough of this neurotransmitter in their brain that's being secreted, or if they have a depletion of this, it can lead to such things as Alzheimer's. And that's one of the things that psychologists and scientists are now studying about, is how to try to deal with this and to try to maybe create an alternative form of this neurotransmitter to be able to supplement the loss of it. How you do that is through what's called an agonist. Okay, an agonist are naturally made chemicals or unnaturally made, human-made chemicals that are basically then mimics the actions of a neurotransmitter in the brain. An example of this is nicotine. Okay, for those of you who smoke, why are you addicted to it? It's because of the nicotine and tar. How that happens is nicotine and tar, when you break it down into its very fine chemicals, there are chemicals in both of those things that go up into the brain that acts as what's called an agonist, a mimic. It copies the neurotransmitters of your brain. Your brain doesn't know the difference. So your brain then is secreting a neurotransmitter that looks like, feels like, and acts like these chemicals that are in your nicotine and tar of a cigarette. It doesn't know the difference, so then these nicotine and tar cigarette chemicals are pouring through your brain, making these connections of neurons, which is then causing you to crave more of the nicotine. And that's why people go into these cravings of wanting cigarettes. If you ever notice, if you ever do smoke, if you've been around people who smoke, a lot of times they'll do it under stress. They do it when they are out drinking or eating. It causes it because that's when these chemicals are naturally being produced in the brain. And that was when these neurotransmitters would then be wanting to have this nicotine and tar to compensate for not having enough of the neurotransmitter being secreted. Also, besides an agonist, there's what's called an antagonist. This goes in the other direction. It's the opposite of it. And basically what this does is it blocks. It does not allow the neurotransmitter to be shot through and to be set up. As you can see here, here's dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that would be naturally sent out during different times of different activities. An antagonist chemical that would come in, like say Curie, would block the dopamine from being secreted and being able to connect up with the dendrite of the other neuron then. There are many different types of agonist chemicals out there as well, like when you have anesthesia, when you're going into surgery, same thing. That is an antagonist type of chemical going through your body. Okay, another type of neurotransmitter is monoamines, which the three main you have to remember there is dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Dopamine basically deals with your voluntary muscle movements. Those are all of your biceps, your triceps, all of those muscles that you move, not because it's just natural, but because your body's commanding it. So when you're running, when you're jumping, all of those kinds of things. Dopamine also deals with a lot of our pleasure. Okay, it deals with making us feel good inside, making us feel happy is another key thing that dopamine does. You may want to write that down as well. The loss of dopamine causes such things as Parkinson's disease. It can also lead to major depression. It can lead to suicidal thoughts. It can be the key factor in why stress becomes such a hindrance for some people because of the dopamine being blocked and not being able to be secreted. Norepinephrine, that is your alert and arousal neurotransmitter. Basically, norepinephrine deals with you being able to stay awake and being able to focus and keep control. So right now, if you're kind of drowsing off a little bit and you want to get out of this video, it is because of the fact that you're maybe not having enough norepinephrine secreted through your brain to allow you to keep yourself alert and aroused. Serotonin, that's your aggressive one. That's your impulsive behavior one. It also deals a lot with your sleeping and eating behaviors as well. So if you're off balance here with your serotonin, if you're dieting, for example, and you're trying to lose weight, the serotonin then is getting out of balance, and that causes you a problem when a lot of it's being secreted, and it causes you these cravings and stuff to be able to want to eat. Or it could be being blocked, and to the point that some people become anorexic because they don't want to eat at all. Abnormal levels of any of these types of neurotransmitters in your brain does cause psychological, physical, and emotional disorders then, such as depression, schizophrenia. So it's very important that these chemicals stay balanced inside your brain, which is very difficult for any of us to have that happen. And that's why so many of us do have some kinds of minor to sometimes major psychological disorders then. The last type is amino acids. This is gamma aminobutyric acid, or what's known as GABA. It is another one. It's called glutamate. One of them deals with an inhibitory effects, such as dealing with your anxieties, your phobias, your fears. That is GABA. It's also one of those that deals with your sleep. And then glutamate is an excitatory neurotransmitter. That's where you get into a lot of your learning and memory from. So when you are involved in something deeply and you're really concentrating on it, you're focusing on it, you're very intensely involved in it, there's a lot of glutamate going through your neurotransmitter of your brain to catch those up. Finally, then you have endorphins. Now, endorphins are dealing with your chemicals that deals with opiates. That's dealing with your pain. Okay, so a lot of times when you are under a lot of stress, a lot of pain, depression, a lot of those kind of things, endorphins will be secreted in order to help you deal with that. Endorphins is another one of your pleasurable types of neurotransmitters that helps people feel good inside. Like for example, when you score a winning touchdown or something like that, it's not just adrenaline flowing through you. It is also a lot of the endorphins. When you fall down and get hurt, in order to block the pain, so you can get through it, so you don't have to be screaming and hollering and stuff. The endorphins get secreted as well, which helps you block. It helps you hinder some of the pain from coming through so that you can get through it a little bit better. And that's why you hear people talk about how they have a tolerance for pain. It's the amount of endorphins being secreted from their brain. That's those neurotransmitters then. So these are just examples of some of the different neurotransmitters, some of the things they have. There is a chart here that is also going to help you to be able to pick up on some of those and kind of understand them a little bit better. So you want to study over that chart there. Probably in class we'll do a little bit of activities to try to review over these because they do get kind of confusing sometimes. So we'll hopefully be able to work on that. And you may again want to reread the video, or I'm sorry, rewatch the video and kind of get down some other notes in order to be able to understand it then.